had Ilya Sorokin on the bingo card as the guy that was going to give up 8-9-5 to Alexander Ovechkin. And how crazy is it that 8-9-5 comes against a guy he'd never scored before against?
Ticked another one off the list.
Yeah.
It was from the spot, but it wasn't the 1T. The only thing more poetic would have been if it was the 1T instead of the sling and wrister.
Darren Millard, along with Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. This is InGoal Radio, the podcast. I just wanted to acknowledge that because it's been such a wonderful story with Alexander Ovechkin chasing down Wayne Gretzky. I think Ovi went blocker side. I think that kind of threw Sorokin off. By the save, looked like he thought it was going to go glove.
Woody, I hear that sometimes that shot throws a lot of people off.
I was just going to say, Darren, we had a nice little piece up at InGoalMag.com. We don't normally do stories on shooters at InGoal Magazine. We're normally all about the goalies. But over the years, I had collected some anecdotes from NHL goalies facing Ovi's shot, mostly for NHL.com, pieces here, pieces there. But I put them all together for a piece on what makes it so unique. Because everybody in the world knows it's coming. Most of the time, you know where it's coming for, and yet the best goalies in the world can't stop it. And so what is it that makes it so special? And, to put it in, well, James Reimer said it's the most unique shot in the NHL. And it's the curve, which Doobie talked about, Devin Dubnyk in the story. It's that little hook that he has sometimes on the end of it. He seems to be switching that over the years. The thing could come at you 100 miles an hour, or it could actually come at 75 and drop and duck and dive like a knuckleball. And some goalies say it was like a slider. It would curve around you on the glove side as you move to your right, or down and away from your blocker. And because of all the spin and all the change in direction, quite often, even if it hit you, it found a way through a seam because of how it was moving. So the most unique shot in the NHL, Reimer said. Doobie said it could come off the blade 4 different ways, which just basically made it impossible for any goalie to read it.
They said the same thing about the Golden Jet. When he was curving the stick, like there were no limitations on that. And Bobby Hull would take the shot and it would rise and drop and all that kind of weird adjustments during the course of its flight. So it's funny to hear that coming from the goaltenders about Ovechkin.
And that would have been way different for goalies at the time. Just
because they didn't have masks.
Well, yeah, that's well, I think they did in most of that, but not all. But no, just there were so few guys curving it. I mean, that was a lot newer at the time, right? When Hull started doing that. So the contrast in which you're having to read would have been completely different. And that's probably part of what's happening with Ovi, is just the contrast compared to everybody else.
The first time I did that story, I think it was for his 500th goal. And my bosses at the NHL asked me to sort of talk to goalies about it. And it was Braden Holtby that told me about how it moves and how it curves. And I honestly didn't believe him. I'm like, come on, man, like that's not even possible. And he explained it all to me. And then I started asking around, and Ryan Miller verified it. A handful of guys that faced him a lot in the Eastern Conference all talked about it. And I think it's become somewhat common now, like people understand it. But back then, I want to say I don't think it had ever really been talked about to that degree. And I do think it's one of the reasons he's had this longevity. Now he's found other ways to score, and he was a power forward. Like there's so much about his game that has evolved, and like when he was early days, like the physicality of it. But at the end of the day, most of them are that shot, and it's the uniqueness of that shot that allows it to be effective. You know, even when, as we've said, everyone in the rink, everyone in the coaching staff, every goalie in the crease knows what's coming. They just don't know how it's coming at them.
28 goalies have faced Ovechkin and not allowed a goal. Just 28.
Ooh, I loved that Budweiser
What a great
campaign, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to start printing T-shirts saying Ovi never scored on me, and we can all buy them.
I wouldn't normally mention this on our stage, but NHL.com did put out a wonderful video that showed every single one of the 895 in succession. And it's a lengthy video.
Wow.
And it's just one after another. But why I bring it up is just
it's nightmare fuel.
Well, there's that, but also we get to relive all the guys. And I found myself watching it over and over and going, like trying to guess who's that guy, because they're quick.
Nice.
Who's that goaltender? There's Sean Burke. There's Burkill really got off me for saying that. But picking out the goaltenders who were scored on was neat.
You guys do the rest of the show. I'll be over here in the fetal position after hearing about this video.
He didn't get a lot of like lucky breaks. He didn't need a lot of those.
He and that's the other thing. He hammers it, right? What did he win the 2018 NHL skills competition hardest shot at 101.3? So imagine it's like you're setting up for the shot. You know it's coming. You know he can deliver it at 100, and all of a sudden it's going 70 to 80, and it's dipping and diving everywhere. Like there's just no way to prepare for that, and there's no way to read which one you're getting because it depends on where it left the stick on that blade or that little toe, that little almost 90-degree hook he had at the end of the toe for all those years.
Sorokin allowed 895, and it wasn't even the worst part of his week. There was the game against Nashville that went back and forth, and he didn't finish the game. So,
well, we've had a few of those. There's been a few nights where I've watched the league and I've been
going
fetal
on?
Position. The Canucks last night down 5-2, 3 goals in the final minute, 2 with the goalie pulled, win in overtime. Yeah, like it's a tough time to be a goalie right now because the defense has gone out the window.
You didn't mention there, which I find just staggering. Nobody talks about the fact that Vancouver scored 5 goals in the third period. It's all about the 3 in the last minute, but they scored 5 in the third period. So I don't know. Teams are scoring 7 goals on a regular basis.
And there were 4 goals on that empty net pull too. Like, don't forget there was one going the other direction too.
We need to have a team meeting about some of this stuff that's going on.
Yeah, let's get some things in order here, boys. This is starting to be a little trouble.
Spin it positively.
Save percentage is going to drop below 900 this year. Just over the last course of the week, it might be enough to drop it down.
What is good about goaltending right now then?
Oh, there's still lots of good goaltending. There's just not a lot of great defending. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't I give you guys a list of the top 10? Actually, no, let's do this top 7, then we'll get into the top 10. Here are the names of the, let's say, minimum 50 shots. So you got to play at least 2 games. That's still a pretty low bar. Top goalies in the NHL since the Four Nations. Here's your list. Adjusted save percentage, so relative to environment. Akira Schmid of the Vegas Golden Knights. Philip Grubauer of the Seattle Kraken. Anton Forsberg of the Ottawa Senators. James Reimer of the Buffalo Sabres, who, by the way, has won 7 straight games, 7 straight starts for the first time in his career. Scott Wedgwood of the Colorado Avalanche. And even after giving up the 6th spot to Vancouver last night, Casey DeSmith, which tells you how good he was before that game, he's still 6 of the Dallas Stars. Number 7 is Frederick Anderson of the Carolina Hurricanes. What do all of those guys have in common?
Okay, I had a theory. It was jumping out at me, but there was no number 1 guys for the first 6. But is Freddie Anderson?
Well, but Freddie hasn't played because of injury. So all of these guys that have played less are your top 7 goalies in the NHL since the Four Nations, just based on statistically relative to the shots they're facing. Now, there are obviously some good goalies that come after that, but included in the top 15 are Jonas Johansson, Jake Allen, who, again, he's had a great season. We've talked about that before, but not the highest workload. Dustin Wolf, who's also had a great season, but again,
shared the crease.
Not the highest workload. Now there's some.
So you're making
big
the point
names
that
are in there.
The guys that are playing a ton are tired?
I'm not saying, because Vasilevsky's in the top 10 barely. Darcy Kemper, who's been pretty much a workhorse, and he's a number 1 and should be a Vezina candidate. He's in the top 10 as well. Those are the guys that sort of round out the top 10 on this list. But the fact that so many at the top, Connor Hellebuck's 13th. Jordan Binnington's come on. He's 14th. So there's some big names there, but even Binnington's come on, but since the Four Nations, they've also worked in Hofer on a regular basis. I just think there's something that, I'm not pretending to have an answer, and I'm not saying teams need to make decisions based on the numbers I just presented, but given next year's going to be the same with an Olympic break and arguably even tougher, I think it's pretty important to take a look at, this can't be a coincidence that the best goalies in the league since the Four Nations, 7 of the top 10, are backups or guys who just haven't played their normal workload. Demko was in there in the top 10 for the longest time, as another guy who hasn't played much this year, but his last couple of starts dropped him well down the list. So it's a tiny sample, but I just think at it.
Right?
What do you mean?
Like, nobody's playing more than they normally would. It's just compacted.
He's just saying the fresh guys are. Yeah, they're still fresher.
The fresh guys are doing better down the fresh guys are fresher down the stretches, I guess what I'm saying, Darren, and they're having significantly better results, including guys who you wouldn't normally think, would be on that
outside
list.
The box thought, Woody. The guys who haven't played as much haven't been pre-scouted as much by teams, so they don't know how to exploit them as well.
I would listen. I would entertain that to a certain extent. I think pre-scouts get mostly ignored by teams in the regular season anyways. They matter more come playoff time. And I think as far as...
Well, Grubauer and Reimer...
What to make of these...
Anderson.
They're pretty well known.
Yeah. And what to make of these numbers too. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, hey, like, look at how good this guy's numbers are. He's got to start ahead of somebody else in the playoffs. That's not the argument. But I certainly would say that if you see signs of fatigue in the other guy, the one that's been top 3 in the NHL for the last 2 months might warrant a start now and again in the playoffs. Like, could we actually see backups get starts in the playoffs rather than just running guys out there and running them into the ground? I mean, look at Carolina last year. Freddie Anderson had this last year where he came back off the blood clot, played brilliantly, but again, they monitor his minutes. You get into the playoffs and they run him out there every second night and he runs out of gas. Like, I'm not saying across the board, and I don't expect it to happen, but there are certainly some teams and some examples on that list where the numbers say you should give the other guy a start in a playoff.
Where you may have to give the other guy a start. Like Edmonton last year.
But that's
Edmonton had to give the other guy a start last year.
Yeah, but you have to. I'm saying, what if it's not that extreme? What if you can just see the guy's not at his best, and you see diminishing returns after 4
Carolina,
straight starts.
I can see doing that. How many other teams?
He's hanging in. Yeah, but that's the problem. Like, Carolina waited till it was like the end, and then they switched. And now your other guy who's can give you great minutes if it's every 4th game has been sitting around for 2 weeks. That's the problem. Like, if you don't go to it early, it's too late. Like you can't leave the backup till game 6. Like, you see signs of fatigue, you need to be thinking about this in game 4 and 5.
Okay, off the top of your head,
give the guy a night off so he comes back for
Western Conference. LA, would they do it with Kemper? And
no, I think and see, there's a flip side to this, and that's that some guys are better when they're just the number one, no question.
Which Darcy is,
and Darcy is. I think Darcy's absolutely not part of this discussion. He's also he's also one of the guys that's still on this list in the top 10. He's not falling off. Interestingly enough, as Anderson's come back, Pyotr Kochetkov, who was climbing into the top 10 of the league standings, has fallen off a cliff statistically. So maybe he's one of those guys that needs the net as opposed to splitting the role. I don't have the answers. I'm not pretending to have the answers, but I think within this data set, there are at least some questions that warrant asking or further discussion.
I don't see a lot of teams in that position unless they absolutely have to.
Well, hockey is.
Well, look at the Leafs.
Look at the Leafs. Maybe the Leafs. Sorry, that's a great point.
But Craig Berube is on record as saying he just wants one guy.
Yeah, he's as old school as they come.
So it's going to be really. And again, I'm not. It's really easy for me to sit here on my couch and suggest that
playing fantasy hockey.
If you're winning the series. People, it's bulletin board material, and you cause the other team to get motivated, and they lit up your backup, and the series changed. If you're losing the series and you fall behind further because it's a no-win for coaches, right? They're always going to take the safer out, and the safest bet has always just been to stick with your guy.
Chris Knobloch did that last year. He made the change
100%,
and it got into a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, he made it once.
I was just going to say that you need the right combination of goaltenders that both need that situation and thrive in that situation, and a coach who's got the open-mindedness to make a move like that. Chris Knobloch was in his first year coaching in the National Hockey League, so maybe it's more likely he'd make a move like that. Maybe you'd also need to look at who the coaches are.
I'd go the other way. Like it was so brave or just cojones.
I just mean it. I just mean it. Oh, it
year.
was for sure. But you have to be that person to make it to the National Hockey League. You've got to have that courage. But maybe a younger coach, I'm just theorizing, might be a little bit more innovative. Whereas look at Craig Berube, you're talking about wanting to have only one guy, and he's got the perfect situation to share the crease. But he's old.
Do you think
school.
there's a compacted schedule element to this?
There might be. I do think the schedule has been pretty tough. There's been a lot of weird anomalies,
just bring it up.
Like weird back-to-backs and 3 and 4s coming, and it's going to be like this next year as well.
Here's the thing.
Right?
I talked to Steve Hatz-Petros. He's in charge of NHL schedule with the National Hockey League and broadcasting. In a normal year, Steve told me, games per week are 3.25 in a normal season. This year, games per week rose to 3.38.
What are they since the Four Nations?
But next year, with the Olympics,
it's gonna be higher.
3.55. Like,
yeah, I think tandems are going to be of the order even more.
That's 25 points higher from a normal year to next year.
Well, and I wonder what it's going to look like post Olympics. Like, it's usually the stretch drive where it gets even more compacted and we see some silliness. Anyways, it's something worth noting, something I wanted to bring up. I mean, I was just searching, sort of looking to see who's done the best since the...
Good for the backups. Wedgwood's been fantastic.
Wedgwood's been fantastic. Like, those are the ones where it'll be interesting. Wedgwood, honestly, Casey DeSmith. Yeah. I know the 6th spot against Vancouver last night, but like up until that, he was posting like Vezina Trophy level numbers.
149, 150 save wins this year.
Yeah, so do you feel you need that at any point? I guess it depends on how Jake plays and whether you feel you need to rest him. It's going to be really interesting. And the other one I would say is Philip Grubauer. Full credit to him. Gets sent to the American Hockey League. Has a season where I think he was probably caught off guard by the way the roles changed. And he went long stretches of not playing, not something he's done in a long time. And that we all know how hard that is. And so since coming back up from the American League, they've been in more of a rotation. He's playing more regularly and he seems to have found his rhythm. And I mean, it is what it is. These things happen. You got to make do with whatever job you're asked to do. But I don't think it's a coincidence that Grubauer's back to playing more regularly and he's back to playing at a level, that, like I said, it's a small sample, but, over those 4 starts is amongst the best goalies in the NHL. Again, tiny sample. Let's see what happens. But that one becomes interesting because I think Seattle has a decision to make, or there's talk of them having a decision to make on their goaltending. And if you're looking at Grubauer as a free agent this summer, if they buy him out, or maybe getting him at a 50% retained, and you're looking at the need for tandems, is he a guy you go get if you're going to park him on the bench for 2 weeks? No. But if you're looking at a job share, Philip Grubauer can still play, and there's a lot of upside there. And a team might be able to find a hidden gem by giving him more of an opportunity than Seattle did early this season.
The big rink upstairs has a couple of goaltenders. We will offer our condolences and comments and memories of Greg Millen and Mark Laforest later in InGoal Radio, the podcast. Right now, let's get over to the Hockey Shop, a source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com, our presenting sponsor with the gear segment. And we're talking about some twigs.
Yeah, Pro Return sticks. And before we get to the sticks, we also talk about custom orders from Bauer and some of the unique elements you can only get if you place an order through the Hockey Shop, including the old trigger grip. But sticks that we talk about today are not the only Pro Returns that the Hockey Shop has. They weren't ready when we filmed, but they are ready to go on sale at the same time as these sticks. Friday, April 11th. So some of you might listen to this before the sale launches. So a little patience. Darren, I'm talking to you. You're going to be all over the website looking refreshing. I know all the time. Where's my Pro Return sticks? Where's my Pro Return sticks? And when it eventually launches on the 11th, there is going to be so much Pro Return gear. I've seen it. It is just a massive inventory of Bauer Pro Return gear. Andrei Vasilevsky retro set. Like his actual set. Linus Ullmark sets from the Boston Bruins, Caden Primo sets. There's some sick graphics in there. And obviously, some of them are pretty team specific and they might be a little hard to fit into the old beer league squad, but the performance on them will be off the charts. Some of it, like I'm telling you, that Vasilevsky retro set is not lasting long. It's like the throwback reactor graphic on a Vasilevsky pad with matching gloves. Pro Return on sale, Hockey Shop, Friday, April 11th. Now let's go to Cam and he can walk us through the sticks that'll be available and some of the custom options available on those sticks that you don't have to buy with a Pro Return name on it. You can get it ordered yourself from the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. I'm in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwood, and oh my goodness, look at all the pretty colors.
We have a couple Pro Custom sticks.
Just a few. I came in, I noticed it on my way in, like this is a mere smattering, a tiny sample of what is on the wall from their Pro sticks. But we wanted to use it not just to highlight the fact that you can go on thehockeyshop.com and find them. I mean, I feel like I'm collecting hockey cards. I got a Linus Ullmark. I'll trade you for an Ilya Sorokin.
I've got an anti-bank cap.
A Laurent Brossoit. A Jack Campbell. One of my favorites. No longer with the Canadians. Now in KHL and playing very well over there. Zach Fucale. So we've got a wide variety of sticks, a wide variety of grips. Oh, steep. Triggers. We got multiple trigger grips.
Yes.
Not only are they available on the site, but also this is a great opportunity to talk about the options when you're custom ordering Bauer sticks. And here's the interesting part, Cam. As I understand it, you explained to me, some of these are sort of not in-store only, but through store only. So you can go to a customizer, but you won't be able to get the same amount of options as if they order from you.
I mean, there is a steep amount of options, but I don't want to trigger you with any of those grips. It's okay. I'm going to round out this part of the segment with talking about the different grips that are available.
I was not warned at all that this would happen. How long have you been practicing that?
I thought that one on the spot. That was pretty good.
That's like, oh, you are so ready for fatherhood with those jokes.
So,
my God.
As I alluded to, and we have these wonderful examples provided to us by Bauer. Thank you very much.
Stunned silence from me the rest of the way.
So, if you go onto Bauer.com right this second, you are able to order custom one-off sticks. There are different options for the grips. You do have the round, and you do have the steep option available.
Which we see here, the Antiranta. The steep is and actually he's now using a Bauer one, Sergei Bobrovsky.
However, if you want something fancy, like a trigger grip.
Can I get a trigger in a steep?
Options available. This has to be ordered as a minimum of 3 through our store.
There's the Jack Campbell trigger grip.
To show off an example. So the one that you will see as a standardized option will be the one that I'm holding in my hand. Pros, the inherent nature of Pro Returns might have something slightly a little bit different, but this will be the only one that you can get.
You know what that looks like? It looks like a Linus Ullmark.
So
this one's got a goal in it.
Yes, it does actually. This is true. Yeah, this is a true story. So within that customizer that you find through us, there is the option for different curves.
So you can get more options if you come through the store.
Yes. Different curves, trigger grip, 95 flex is something a little bit stiffer, which we see on a few of these sticks as well that do have that stiffer profile. We see 87 and we also see 95.
I was going to do a flex and show you guys the flex, but let's be honest, I'm too weak to flex a 95. It just wouldn't move.
There you go. Well, we have it here. It's okay. So again, purpose of this to highlight some of the options that are available, but it's to create kind of that conversation of what and how can I get it?
And if I might suggest, if you've thought about a trigger grip, you've liked the idea of a trigger grip, you've never had the opportunity to actually play and try a trigger grip before you go to the point of ordering 3 through Cam in his store, you can try a Pro Return and see how it fits your hand and your game.
Exactly. And they're on sale as well. But as with all Pro Return stuff, no warranty.
No warranty on the Pro Returns. There's tons of models available in store and online at thehockeyshop.com. If you have any questions about the lineup of Bauer Pro Returns or the custom order options that you can get through Cam that you can't necessarily get through their website, give him a call at
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790 or check us out at thehockeyshop.com.
I got nothing. I'm shocked by the pun level was so off the charts.
Rounded out to a finish.
You mentioned the Vasilevsky retro set. If you bought those, would you use them? Like they'd be a little big for you, Woody, but if they were a size appropriate for if you bought them, would you use them?
The Vasilevsky set? Oh. As opposed to what? Putting them on display in my office?
That'd be a tough one.
So here's the beauty of the Bauers. You could do both. Just wipe it off after, right? Like it's so easy to clean those ones, you know? Hey, just a little wipe down. I don't know. Like, let's be honest. I'm not worthy of wearing a Vasilevsky set. That'd be like, it'd feel like a little bit sort of.
I wouldn't wear them. I'd have them up in the office. Yeah.
Would you?
If I had the money to be able to afford to pay for a set of gear that I wasn't going to use, I would do that.
Especially if you get him to sign it.
He's got his logo on the back, like in the back of the pad, just above the knee. It's got the Vasilevsky logo. He's so good. That's like Luongo, the Luongo pad over Hutch's shoulder, right? And those are never seeing the ice again. They did see the ice with Roberto. They're now
I wore them
signed.
once because I felt like I had to. Just to
You did wear them?
You just see there.
And they're way too big for me.
You did wear them?
Yeah,
I did once, yes.
That was before we got them signed, and they were actually sent. He has a reason. They were so Roberto wore them in practice a couple of times
when he was with Vancouver,
and we had the matching glove and blocker
Yeah.
when he was with Vancouver. It's a Reebok P4 for those that can't. Obviously, we don't publish the video. And there's the matching glove, and I had the blocker. I used it to help a charity out with an auction. So I don't have it, but I do have the other pad. So it's a Reebok P4.
Oh, you have the other pad?
And yeah, I have the other pad. So we each have one of Roberto's pads in our
Are they
locker.
both signed?
But I
In
had
our
them both
office.
when I wore them,
Yeah,
Darren.
they're both signed.
I didn't go on the ice.
Yeah,
with just one.
Darren, I didn't make Hutch pull a like Vaughn demo day where we had to sample a pad and write a review on only getting one. We actually had two from Roberto. So Reebok, at the time, Roberto ordered, and people remember this in Vancouver, he went with an all-white pad Reebok P4 with a green outer roll, solid green outer roll. That pad showed up like 4 practices into using this set that we have. And we needed a test set, and Reebok said because the Canucks were gonna send these back as pro returns to Reebok to sell, and Reebok said no, give them to the InGoal guys so they can do a review. So in Hutch's defense, we had to get them on the ice a little bit because we do that with all our reviews. We make sure we get it on the ice. Now, I don't know how the hell Hutch wore these because they're Roberto's pads and Hutch is not Roberto sized, but we do have testers who are Roberto sized. So they did get a few.
Legacy.
Yeah, they're coming right up to your crotch, maybe to your waist. So yeah, we did wear them, and then afterwards, after we were done the review, years later, actually, when Roberto got traded, actually when he came back with the Panthers, I put this whole set of gear in the back of my car, and actually I drove him somewhere to go see someone.
Is that when you recorded the podcast with him?
And it was when I recorded the podcast, and on the way out, I had him scribble on each one, so we kept them as souvenirs. This is good memories from the early days of
this
InGoal
is like
magazine.
year 1, year 2, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when we did that review. As a matter of fact, you can see it, Darren. You can see over his shoulder. You caught me looking up to where mine is in my office. The autograph is actually significantly faded over the years on the pad.
I can see it pretty well. It works. The thought that counts. I know it's there.
Those had to come up to your belly button.
Oh, it was absurd, but I still felt like I had to.
Just had to try them. Glove was like butter.
Somebody handed me a Formula 1 car.
Ooh.
I'd have to drive it, even though I'd probably end up crashing it. I mean,
did you ever butterfly in those things?
Oh yeah,
because they would overlap so much.
Again, Manny Legacy.
It was a very narrow butterfly, Darren. They went
Honestly,
straight
how
out.
tall is Manny Legacy? We've got to be similar heights.
And no! Don't be bringing Manny
5'10".
into this.
And didn't he wear 38?
This is
No, I'm just saying it can be
I will
done.
not tolerate the Manny Legacy slander.
I'm not slandering. I'm just saying it can be done.
It sounds like you're slandering Manny.
It's just
Take it back.
intention. No, I'm just... Shut up. Stop teasing me, boys. You're not being nice.
Bullies.
Carl Lindbaum plays for the Henderson Silver Knights. He's had a fantastic rookie year in the American Hockey League. First year, he's played pro in Sweden, but first year pro in North America. I saw one of his sticks the other day, and he's got the trigger finger on it. I'm like, oh,
Did you try it?
I got to get a couple of these because his pads. I put my pads up against his. He wears the E-Flex, but and they're the exact same size. So I'm like, oh, I wonder what kind of sticks he uses. Just thinking down the road, might have to borrow a couple. Sherwood's been great to me with my sticks, but if I need one in the meantime, and they had the trigger finger, I'm like, oh, gotta do it.
See, that's what the Pro Return sale at the hockey shop is best for. Like, you don't want to custom order one. You don't want to buy multiple. You want to just try it out. You can give it a try.
Yeah,
see
you
if
have
you
to
like
order
it.
3 if you want it custom with the trigger. That's what
Is that the minute? Is that the minimum for the trigger?
I think you can
I
order
was trying to
single
remember.
sticks custom, but I think for the trigger through Cam, it has to be 3. So yeah, definitely try it.
There are certain things.
And there's so many
and that's-
different ranges of the trigger. Like some are just like slanted, shaved down. Others have an actual trigger there. Like there's all kinds of different versions of
You
it.
only get
that's
one
the,
chance
the
here,
one
yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
the one from Bauer is just there's one very specific cutout that you can get from them.
I'll take that. Got to do it. Locks me out from the.
That's the best option. But if I had a stick on its way
Well,
out,
Darren?
I'd probably take the hacksaw to it and see if I could build one of my own.
Yeah, I did it.
Friday,
Yeah. Okay.
April 11th, Darren.
Yeah. I'm in.
Friday, April 11th. All the pro stock goes on sale at the hockey shop and thehockeyshop.com. Get on there, Darren. I know you're on there every
I was
day
on there
anyways. Just
earlier
make sure
today.
You're on there early.
I was on there earlier today. Just
We might know somebody. We can maybe set aside a trigger
I just-
grip for you. We
I
might-
can't help
people.
myself. I enjoy it. It's soothing for me. Just want to mention, we were talking about all the like defense optional right now. This game's still going. Minnesota scored 7 tonight. That game's still going. The Flyers scored 8 on the Rangers tonight.
Oh my gosh.
It was 8-5 in that game. The Wild were up 7-4 in that game. Just as we record this, there's something weird.
Yeah. I just think that the amount of work and attention to detail required to defend in today's National Hockey League effectively is so high because the skill level of the players is so high and the offensive potential is so high that if you don't have that to the nth degree, pucks are going in. It's not a goaltending problem. Pucks, you turn it into an all-star game, man. You aren't where you're supposed to be. You start opening up the slot. These guys are tickling the twine just under the bar, crossbar post seams right in the elbow. Like time and space is your enemy. And so if your team isn't paying enough attention and giving too much of it, pucks are going in. It's just the reality. It's going to be really interesting to see if teams can crank it down and tighten it up come playoff time, because this is obviously not what wins in the postseason.
Well, to your point, Woody, about goaltenders being tired at this time of year and needing some fresh legs in there to play better, has to be true of defensive play in hockey too. It's a long season. Some of these teams, their fate is sealed.
They get to sit on the bench for two-thirds of the game. Come on.
I got to be nice to defense. I'm not going to give the forwards a break for not back checking, but it's tough to play defense in the National Hockey League.
Just hard timing. You make a great
grouchy
point. I think
today.
there's probably a fatigue factor.
And if your team's fate is sealed in the playoffs, and
rolling out some young guys who
have fresh legs and a lot to prove,
but not necessarily the chops to know where to be
Also
every
true,
time
yeah.
defensively, or the grit to sort of grind down on guys
messy
and
game.
play a heavy style of game.
Schmidt actually said that about the American Hockey League. It's easier to
Hey,
play in the
Darren.
NHL because you know where everybody's going to be all the time. It's more predictable.
We've heard
But
that
maybe
from
not
a lot
right
of
now.
guys, right?
Akira, yeah, we've heard that from a lot of guys, and Akira Schmidt is a guy I think who is probably better in the NHL than he is in the AHL. His game fits the way it's going. And just so you know, since we're in the 2 minutes that we've talked, it's now 7-5 Minnesota and San
You
Jose.
see the save that Schmidt made gloving the puck, and they ruled the puck had crossed the line inside his glove?
We did, and then we have a question for everybody else. Who
You
watched
brought
it.
this up
If
to
he's
me,
got
and I think it's
black webbing.
yes. He has white lacing in the glove, and you could see the puck inside the glove. Made it much easier to rule that the goal should count, even though he made a wonderful save. Dark webbing, does that does that change things? And the people that I talked to said maybe it doesn't cause the goal not to count, but it makes it a lot more difficult for the situation room.
We've talked about dark gear and dark edges, and there are some coaches who don't want you to have dark edges because it frames you and shows where you end and the open net begins. The converse to that is if you're wearing dark gear, black in particular, you do tend, according to the goalies that do, to get quicker whistles because referees lose it in your equipment a little faster. And I would argue in this case, maybe not even a black glove, but just black lacing. It's, we're talking sometimes. That one was a little clear, but there are times when the puck barely crosses and they need to see that sliver of white ice. Well, if you've got black webbing that sort of hides where the puck ends and your webbing begins and what's what, absolutely it could save you one of those calls.
Quicker whistles. Didn't know that.
That's what the guys that wear it say. I mean, it's anecdotal, Darren, but yeah, a lot of the guys that wear black gear say they find they get quicker whistles because the puck gets lost in it fast.
Hutch, I'm going to save this story. I was going to bring it up, but I'll put it off to next week. Can you remind me of Geico?
I will try to remind you of Geico. And anybody who would like a preview for next week, just go search Geico and you will find some goalie fouls. Give people detective work to do this week, Darren.
Major goalie foul.
Not just one.
Once you see it.
Not just one.
Oh, really?
I sent you both.
Oh, no.
You sent me the idea, and then I sent you the two fouls that I saw.
Yeah.
It's all your idea, though, Darren. I'm not taking credit.
It's not good. You can't unsee it. Let's get into a Visual Edge Pro Reads. Charlie Lindgren is this week's Pro Reads.
Yeah, with some great tips. Charlie's always excellent in this format. And Charlie got to be on the ice. I was hoping he was going to get a helper. He had the good sort of lead behind the net that led to the Ovechkin goal for $8.95, but there were two passes in between. But he's on the ice. He got to celebrate. That was kind of nice and fun to see. Out there with Hunter Shepard, who was called up from the American Hockey League while Logan Thompson's out with a head injury. So Charlie was a perfect fit this week to be on Pro Reads. And Pro Reads is a perfect fit to be sponsored by Visual Edge because everybody that knows Pro Reads at InGoal knows it's all about helping you read the game better, see the plays, envision what's coming next, anticipate better, and manage how you handle those things better. Well, Visual Edge is all about helping you see the puck and see everything in front of you better. Whether you want to train your peripherals or train your puck tracking ability, there are all these different aspects of your visual acuity that Visual Edge has the ability to test and then help improve and train. You take their Edge test at the beginning when you first sign up, you get a score, and then they set up a program that helps you improve in the areas of weakness while also working on your strengths to continue to make those better. So whether it's convergence, seeing a puck coming at you all the way and being able to track it all the way in and then off your body and out if there's a rebound, or divergence where you're scanning the zone and able to quickly pick things up. We've had guys like Cam Talbot talk about the way they see pucks off releases through traffic or find pucks coming through a screen. So much improved since he started using Visual Edge. So Visual Edge sponsors our Pro Read segment. It's a perfect fit. Make sure you check it out. InGoal members, if you check it out on InGoalMag.com, you get added discounts. Everybody else also gets discounts. Just use the code. Is it InGoal50, Hutch?
I think it's just InGoal, Woody. I think it's just InGoal.
It's just InGoal. My bad. We got too many codes, and I've been hitting the head too many times because I haven't been doing my training, so I'm not tracking it well. It's hit me right between the eyes. It's not great. But check it out on our Pro Reads this week featuring Charlie Lindgren. Charlie talks about power plays and depth management and the secret to RVH inside leg or anchor leg placement and how it can help you get off your post better and make better depth decisions in terms of not chasing the puck, not chasing the play. We got a great one with him against the Tampa Bay Lightning power play this week where he breaks it all down for us at Pro
Update,
Read.
correction. The code is I just about spilled the beans, Woody. There's a secret code. If you're an InGoal member, you will be logged in and you will see it. But if you're not an InGoal member,
that's the big money
just
code.
About spilled the beans. So, but that's a nice reminder to folks that if you have an InGoal membership, you can save even more. So head over and get yourself signed up.
And what's the one for non-members?
I'm going to have to log out before I can tell you that, to be absolutely sure. I'm pretty sure it's InGoal, but
I should probably know that.
He probably
Hunter
should.
Shepard in the picture in the celebration of Ovi's goal was like beast mode with that hair.
What a cool experience.
Totally. He part of history right there. That was outstanding. All right. Stop at goaltending you, the parent segment, and then we'll get back to the code. So that now you have to stick around.
I got the code. It is just InGoal, and it's $5 a month discount.
You guys are a well-oiled machine.
We're smooth.
The best part about this,
smooth.
I was trying to
People can't
wave. You
see
don't
it.
need to say anything, Woody. I was right. But Woody still has
People-
an opportunity to
Oh,
say something else into a microphone, so he takes it.
No, I'd actually scrolled away from. I couldn't see you. I was scrolled away trying to make sure we had it right. It's been a long day.
I
folks.
love
It's
watching
been
the
a long
two
day.
of you like working the screens while you're on a Zoom. It was fabulous.
Visual Edge just got the longest read in the history of a podcast read because of our mistake. So I'm sure
No
they'll
doubt.
be cool.
Well,
Darren,
how
we
about stop
don't
at
get a
goaltending?
fancy producer talking into our ear, giving us all the facts and things. So
They just screw you up anyway.
do they? I don't
Oh.
don't know how you could
Oh, it's-
possibly do your job with somebody talking in your ear.
Producers. Well, it's
The
an
first-
art.
The first time somebody started counting down in my ear while I was live on television, I almost
Yeah.
froze in the spot. It's
If I
hard.
could have heard that and watched that, I would have been peeing myself.
No,
laughing
it-
about somebody cutting Woody off.
The good producers know when to jump in between words or a pause. The ones that don't and just start blabbing away as you're talking, those are the ones you have a conversation with after. I go Woody. Stop at goaltending you, parent segment. What do you have for us this week?
Just going to have a little bit of a word with the parents about how some of the advice that we give to goaltenders also applies to us as parents. But I think Woody's going to tell us a few
But
things
first,
first.
the weekly primers this week at Stop at Goaltending You are on resiliency, the journey to bounce back. So 5 1-minute quick primers from Brian DeCord about resiliency. They've also got a new drill of the week. It's a triangle drill for 2-on-1s, just a quick breakdown. They've got multiple videos on that. Good drill for goalies. Fits a lot of the stuff we do over at Pro Reads as well. And of course, if you get a membership to Stop at Goaltending You, the app, you also get a membership to InGoal Magazine Premium. So the best of both worlds. You get Stop at Goaltending You with the weekly primers, 5 new videos every week. They do all kinds of drills, tips, goalie breakdowns, pep sessions, all of that on Stop at Goaltending You, the app. And you can subscribe and become a premium member and get access to even more services, including resources around if you're making the step to junior or college, advisory stuff. It's all in the Stop at Goaltending You, the app. And as I said, buy a membership, a monthly membership to Stop at Goaltending You, and you automatically get a membership to InGoal Magazine Premium.
Hutch.
I was listening to this week's feature interview, which will be coming up soon, and the phrase physician, heal thyself popped into my head, guys. Or I guess I should say goalie parent, heal thyself. That's from a phrase originally from the Bible, but now it's more commonly used just to suggest that we should take care of our own issues before we start pointing out others. And like I said, the interview resonated with me this week. And as I was listening, as I often do, I mentally checked this box that says, yep, this is a special one. I need to send it to my kid. And so many things in the interview, when you hear it, I hope resonate with you as they did for me. I could picture my kid cheering for his partner in the middle of a practice, and so many great insights into the mental game that I thought applies for him and so many young goaltenders. But, as Mikey spoke more and more about his mental approach, it actually started to hit home personally, not for how I saw it in my son as a goalie, but actually for myself as a goalie parent. I tease Woody every now and then about watching the shot clock, but I have to say that I've done the very same calculations 1,000 times in my own games. Okay, boys, 2 shots, 1 goal. Geez, I need 8 more saves to get myself back to 900. Wait, oh no, now that's 3 shots, 2 goals. I need 17 saves now to get myself to 900.
I do that all the time.
Absolutely.
Still.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
And
too.
the calculations
Still.
get harder the more pucks go into the net too. It's just a feedback loop.
Guys, give up 50
It's a feedback
shots.
loop, yeah. So, but the thing is, I do the same thing as a goalie parent sometimes, and I know lots of us do. You start calculating how many more saves your kid needs to make to get to 900. You even start calculating the save percentage of the kid at the other end for some sort of comparison purpose. So whether it's tracking shots or judging goals or obsessing long past the goldfish length memory that we should have, these thoughts creep in for goalie parents. And guys, it's perfectly normal. And then if we go and share them with our kids after the game, as often we will, those thoughts that we had, all we do is end up adding to our kids' mental load. All we do is end up setting the wrong example for how to handle a situation. But today's segment is about you and me, the goalie parents. Being a goalie parent is hard. You're not destined to live in a state of constant stress, though. There are things that we can do. And as I've discovered, they're sitting right in front of us. So whether it's passing on this episode or maybe some other tools that we have normally to our goalie kid, we need to know that they're actually available to us too. All the lessons that we're hearing for goaltenders through InGoal and through today's interview and so many other places, they apply to us as goalie parents. Don't count stats. Do your breathing exercises. Give yourself a moment to be frustrated, but then move on. Next shot, let's go. Actually, as a parent, you could build a routine that creates calm for you. And let's be clear here, boys. I am not claiming perfection on any of this, far from it. But I do think it's good advice. When I'm able to follow it, the games are so much more enjoyable for me. I will admit that these things are also easier when things are going well for your kid, but that's kind of the point. There are tools to help you when they aren't going well. So here's your homework this week, everybody. Listen to this week's feature interview and make yourself some notes with that context of yourself as a goalie parent in it. What are you going to do for yourself? Or go over to ingoalmag.com. Top menu, mental game is one of the links. Click on it. Go find an article and read it, or watch something in there. Find something that you're going to work on for yourself this week. Whether Johnny or Susie are playing spring hockey, or they're in tryouts, or maybe they're playing baseball or soccer, whatever. Pick something for yourself this week to work on so that you can enjoy the game a little bit more. Then hit me up, parents@ingoalmag.com, and let me know what you're working on. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to learn from you.
That's great advice for the mental challenge to goalie parents.
And all sports parents, right, Woody?
Yes, it applies to those with daughters in volleyball as well.
Because you're playing the game with
or
them.
sons.
Yeah. Are you a goalie? Are you a
yeah
crazy sports parent, Darren?
I would go off by myself and watch. Because I found I would just get talking too much and wouldn't pay attention. I would get distracted. So I would just go off by myself and pay attention and focus. I don't know whether that helped anybody. Maybe my daughter wanted me to be distracted. I don't know.
Maybe you're qualified to be a goalie parent too then, Darren, because we like to hang out in the corner of the rink all alone quite often.
I love the parent segment brought to you by Stop It Goaltending You.
Hey, just so you know, in the time it took Hutch to explain that parent segment, to go through that, it was brilliant. I loved it. Way to riff off of Mikey DiPietro, who is a great feature guest coming up. It's now 7-6 in that Minnesota Wild San Jose Sharks game.
Yeah.
Do your breathing exercises, Woody.
And there was an 8-5 game.
Going to be in between this and Darren bringing up Ovechkin video. Like, I'm pretty close to just being in the fetal
position. Ovechkin video was fun just because you get to see the different gear over the years and all the different goals. Oh, I forgot about that guy.
Now
I'm going to have to look through my fingers.
I watched 895 goals and I thought, I wasn't bad the other night.
How many saves does he need to make to get to 900 now?
Exactly.
Hey, speaking of 900 saves, we also didn't give a shout out in that beer segment to the goaltender who has made the most saves against Alexander Ovechkin without giving up a goal. Do you know who that is?
Cujo?
Nope, still playing.
No, he was
still playing. Got a 1,000 save percentage on Ovi.
Was it 16 shots?
I think it was 18, but yeah, it's up there.
You're not gonna get this one, Darren.
Woody now knows it. You looked it up.
No, I didn't look it up, but I remembered because I looked at the list yesterday. I know Kevin Lankinen here in Vancouver had 14. He was one of the top 5.
Really? Because Schmidt, I talked to about this. He faced him 4 times and never allowed a goal. But
He's on the list. Yeah. He should have a Budweiser can. Did he get
I don't know
it?
whether he got it, but I was kind of angling
It's
for
coming.
it. Maybe
You're trying to
intercept
get
it.
Yeah.
I think they should all get 8 at least.
Yeah, no, he would have got
So
it.
there's the question, Darren. Like Hutches, are you wearing the pads? Are you wearing the Vasilevsky pads?
Would you
if
open
you
the
intercept the beer, are you cracking?
No chance.
Are you cracking
No
it?
chance.
No
chance.
I got a commemorative Budweiser up there in the office display for Daniel and Henrik Sedin's
Nice.
final game.
No, I'm not. I'm not cracking that thing open.
Okay.
Who's the goaltender?
Same first and last initial.
Plays for Florida, which might be news.
I'd actually forgotten that.
Wow.
Recently with Florida, I think somewhat recently.
Who is it?
Vitek Vanacek.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Never would have got it.
I wonder who's faced the most shots from Ovi. Other than Braden Holtby, practice doesn't count.
And what was the other thing about Braden? The conversation with Braden about Ovi. After figuring out what the shot did and how hard it came in, they had to have a discussion about how often he unleashed it at full velocity in practice. And it was a heated, I don't know if it was a heated discussion, but it definitely got heated at various points until they came to an understanding, as I recall, was the way Braden phrased it.
Would have been fun to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Back in the day, goalies chasing around guys.
Oh, yeah. I may have done it.
Oh, so I can't remember. Oh, it's Mike Palmatier. I don't know whether I get this story right, but even the way I tell it's going to be good, even if it's not accurate. Washington Capitals, funny enough, Palmatier's playing for the Capitals and Mike Gartner's playing for the Capitals. And Palmatier would step out of the net when Gartner would come down and along the sideboards. So Gartner just started shooting at him on the side. I thought that was fantastic. Oh.
I remember doing a story for NHL about like the burning rubber story, right? About the shots off the side of the mask. You know, speaking of Ovi and the spin, like imagine how much you'd be smelling burning rubber. You know, if you're facing him and he's getting you up around the shoulders and it's leaving the puck marks and it'd be burning rubber all the time.
Woody,
with that guy. Yeah.
The guys that take the shots in the practice when I get to skate with the NHL guys, I smell the rubber just from the stick hitting the puck. Like it doesn't have to hit you in the cage or anything. You can.
No, it's like shoulders or like the shaft of your stick.
No,
or
like
from
the slap
stick.
of the player stick.
Come on.
You can smell it.
Goodness.
Yes. It's
really? You have a very sensitive olfactory system.
Is it a Pavlov's dog sort of thing? You've heard it hit the stick so many times and then you've been whacked and smell the rubber that now you just smell the rubber.
Eichel hit the shaft of my stick the other day and broke it. And he's like, you broke your stick. I said, well, we got like 10 minutes left. I can get through it. It's not like it's still intact. It's just leaning.
Yeah.
2 shots later, he hit the top of the stick, sent the shaft flying, like broke the shaft of the stick in half, flying.
Wow.
Like, I think I'll get a new stick now.
So there's no way. Was that intentional?
No, well,
you broke your stick, he says, and then he comes down and wastes another one off and finishes.
Nobody hits
off.
the shaft of the stick more than Jack Eichel. And then we had a conversation about. He's like, I think I have to shoot over here more because the goalies, when they raise their arms, the shaft of the stick goes up. I'm like,
it's an extension.
I've never heard of a player ever trying to shoot around the handle of the goal stick.
That's impressive.
He ripped one here against that Demko that went elbow, like crossbar post seam and out, that I had to look at it twice, slow motion replay before I could realize it. He just ripped it from the slot. That's not stoppable. No. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not stoppable. So good luck to you. My story, though, was at Darren Pang, your friend Darren Pang, interviewing him for this story about, and he couldn't believe how many times, I think he was with the Blues at the time, talking about how many times Jordan Binnington or Jake Allen would take a shot in the mask in practice and how they tolerate it. He's like, back in my day, I would have been chasing them around the ice with my stick. First time's fine. It's an accident if you apologize. Second time, it was an issue. So times have changed very much. We are better protected for sure than the equipment that Darren was wearing. But it's interesting to see, just how the old school guys feel about how often the new school guys are taking one in the bean and smelling the
Darren Elliott talked about, tells me all the time about guys that he would chase around. And when he was the LA Kings, Hexy was world famous for chasing guys around. Mikey DiPietro, sorry to keep you waiting, Mikey. I was around the draft during his draft window, and it was so cool to get to know him. And it takes guys a while to mature, but Mikey DiPietro is our Sense Arena feature interview-winning.
Yeah, and he gets into that process and, his role in it, some of the expectations. But before we get to Mikey and a great story about statistics, I think we need to hear about our friends from Sense
we
Arena.
sure do, because this week's feature interview is brought to you by NHL Sense Arena. Guys, NHL Sense Arena has teamed up with NCAA Division I college partners of theirs to create 4 new training plans, and each of them is designed to sharpen your skills and keep your game playoff ready as, around the Frozen Four. It's now available inside your headset. The plans feature the top drills used by some of the top programs in the country. They've curated routines for forwards, defensemen, cognitive training, and of course, us goalies. But that's a nice reminder that because you get multiple accounts when you buy Sense Arena, you might have one goalie in the family, but you can also use it for the forwards or the defensemen in your family. If you're in the crease, though, this new top trained drill section, the plan includes puck tracking and visual focus work, high rep shot sequences for reaction speed, lateral movement and positioning drills. They are the same drills that NCAA goalies are using pre and post practice to stay sharp, and they're ready for you right now. It's a fantastic time to try NHL Sense Arena if you haven't before, everybody. It's spring season now, sort of lets you establish new routines. You don't have the same access to the ice as you used to, but you want to keep your head in the game. So check it out at sensearena.com and use the code IGM50. Woody doesn't even need to look that one up because I know it's there. Use it at the checkout and you'll save even more.
So good now. What was it like connecting with Mikey?
It was good because it had been a while. I knew he'd have some great insights, some great advice. Tough times after getting traded for the first time, and had some personal challenges that he sort of explains. Goes from, being a highly regarded NHL prospect to traded, sitting around waiting for a place to play, and down to the ECHL. He gets into all of it. But most interesting, and we should have whetted the appetite, really good professionalism of us with the IGM codes today. Also really good to leave a very big tidbit for right before the interview, as opposed to, I think you people in the industry, Darren, call it a tease. We probably should have teased this one a little earlier. Mikey DiPietro is having a hell of a season in the American Hockey League. But you know what I couldn't mention in our interview? His save percentage.
Oh, that's right.
He doesn't know it. And he does not want to know it. He has no idea what his save percentage is, where it ranks in the league, and that is on purpose. And it's one of the many things he explains in terms of his evolving mindset and the success he's having, because I can tell you, it's right at the top of the league this year, and why he does it, how he does it, and how it's helped him sort of focus on being in the moment. Really excited to welcome back to the InGoal Radio podcast. It has been far too long since we had him on as a guest, and far too long since I've had a chance to catch up with him. Michael DiPietro of the Boston and Providence Bruins. Like 4 years. Time is flowing. You're in last time we talked to you, you were with the Canucks. You've had a trade. You've been through a whole bunch of different things. I guess first off, just how is it going?
Things are good. It's I can't believe it's already been 4 years. But yeah, it's still great. You get to still play hockey and get hit by things for a living. So, it's pretty good. And I'm just trying to get better and, be hopefully a good example, for the next generation to come. So that's what I'm focusing on.
Getting better. you have, and there's been consistent growth. I'm guessing in your game, I'm guessing in you and your experiences as a person. We can get into that in a bit. But first, walk me through, I think from an experience standpoint, take us back to getting traded, all the time you invested here in Vancouver and in your career here to have to go start fresh in another organization. What was that experience like? And what in the moment was the mindset? How do you look back on it now?
Yeah, I think, the story of me getting traded is actually kind of crazy. Without going too in depth, I got traded, I believe it was a Thursday. And at the time, I needed to get a work visa process. So they told me just kind of like stay put in Abbotsford kind of thing. So I was skating by myself there for a few days the following week. So this time I still haven't really moved. And then, at the time I was just like, okay, I'm trying to go home. And basically, long story short, without getting into any specifics, it turned out to be a 26-hour car ride to Bozeman, Montana. I got stranded a few times. And there were a few got stuck on a mountain in Mount Washington because I got caught in a blizzard. So I turned my truck around, went down the wrong side of the mountain. Didn't have service for 2 hours, so I was just kind of like looking at landmarks, trying to find a way back to the border. And then I got rerouted through Seattle, got stuck for 8 hours on a mountain in Idaho, and then made it to Bozeman, Montana 26 hours later. And then my dad flew into Bozeman because I was impatient. I just want to get home. And I told him to meet me in Bozeman. And then he ended up just driving the rest of the 2 days back to Windsor until I was kind of ready to get, told to come out here. So that was just another without getting into too many specifics, that's a story in itself. But
I was just going to say, is there a metaphor there, like to feeling a little lost, literally, and going through that trade for your first time in your career?
I don't know. I think it really tested how much I love the game. Because I think at that point in my career, there are certain things that I think I was still young. Because at the time I was only, 23, 23.
Mikey, I got news for you, buddy. You're still young.
Yeah, maybe hockey terms young. But for me, I think that there were times like, is it really worth it? I felt like, when I kind of got here to Providence, there was just a lot of goalies here and a lot of really good goalies. So there wasn't really any room. And I ended up playing my first game that year. They sent me down and I got sent to Maine and the coast. And I just felt like my career was going the opposite direction. And, within the span of like 8 months, I went from the NHL American League and now I'm playing the East Coast. It's kind of the wrong way you want your career to go, especially for me. And I remember driving to Maine when I got sent down and I was really upset. I was frustrated. I felt embarrassed. I felt like all these, I got traded and I just didn't know, all these different emotions that you feel. And it was, I played my first game and then literally after my first game in Maine, I get a call from my dad and he let me know my grandma passed. So literally flew home right after that. Actually, no, sorry, I didn't fly home. I played the one more game, letting 9 goals. And then I flew home after that game. And which it was just like a really trying time of the year for me or that point in my career. Fast forward 3 weeks, I get a call from Danny Briere. I was able to, he asked if I want to go to the Spengler Cup. And I thought he had the wrong number. I'm like, Danny, I played 4 games all year. I let 9 goals my second game. Like, you sure? And I call my parents and they're like, oh my God, go. So I call my girlfriend Grace and, she's like, okay, let's go to Switzerland for Christmas. And another roadblock, we were supposed to fly out. Our flight got canceled on the 23rd. So we got to go on the 24th. We were stuck in the airport 8 hours before our flight came off because the baggage cart broke and you couldn't load the bags on. So we flew out, I think, at 2 a.m. We landed in Amsterdam, missed our connector. But by the time we landed in Zurich, we were in midnight. So it was like literally Christmas morning. And the tournament starts on Boxing Day. So we're at the baggage belt. And both of our luggages didn't make it. My hockey equipment didn't make it. My sticks didn't make it. And they didn't know where they were. So we didn't have clothes for 5 days when we were in Davos for the Spengler. And we went to H&M. We just grabbed the necessities just to get us by. And I was there supporting my team at the Spengler Cup. And the gear came on the quarterfinals day, and I couldn't dress because it just came, and we lost. So that was my experience at the Spengler. So it was funny. My girlfriend's like, do you want to talk to somebody? Like, do you want to talk to like a sports site guy? Like, I'm like, why, Grace? Like, this seems normal. She goes, Mike, a lot of things have happened to you in the past, couple months. I'm like, you make a good point. And and then the rest of the year I finished off in Maine that year. So that was kind of the 3 months I got traded.
So first off, condolences. I know how big family is for you and how important it is. So I'm sorry to hear about your grandma. Did you talk to somebody as part of the process? Because you finished that year in Maine. I was going to ask if there was a rock bottom as you kept adding to the story. But you got to... At some point, there was a bounce back, Mike, because I look at how that year finished for you. And I guess my question is, what was the starting point? And I'm guessing part of it, we were rediscovering just a certain joy for the game and going out and playing. But how did you get to that point?
I think for me, when you hit that point, I guess, where you feel like, could it get any worse? Like, seriously, you start appreciating like the little things, and you start looking forward to things to do at the rink, not just like practice or games. And for me, this might sound stupid, but a morning coffee, and in the coast, they don't really have breakfast for you, but we had bagels. And it was in the morning, I'd have my morning coffee and a bagel, and I'd watch TV in our gym/lounge. And at the time, it was just like, Christmas movies before the Spengler or whatever, something light, and just being with the guys and hanging out. And that kind of snowballed to, okay, let's start playing rebound after practice, or let's start doing a breakaway challenge, or just stuff like, because when you're in the coast, a lot of these guys, like they're playing the game just because they solely just love the game, and a lot of these guys, are on coast deals or stuff like that, and just kind of like grinding and waiting to just keep playing. And, for me, getting close to those guys and seeing, okay, like this is just a page of the book. This doesn't have to be like where the story ends. This could be like, just keep on going, keep having fun, keep competing with your teammates. And I think like I ran into a lot of issues, I think my third year in Abbotsford, where I forgot my pregame routine because I didn't play for 400 plus days the year before. I was like, what do I do?
You were one of those guys for people that, because time and flat circle and everything since the pandemic, you were one of those guys that got stuck, lost a year of development, didn't play for a year because of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was over 400 days. And I'm not going to use that as an excuse. At the end of the day, I'm a professional. Like, you got to find ways. But I think for me, it was being young. I didn't really figure out a way how to, process it and figure out a way through. And I think that's where a lot of my struggles came. And you start to, if you don't have success on the ice, then it starts to like kind of trickle down into, okay, now you're not feeling so good when you leave the rink. And then now you mix in with that. And then you start getting a negative cycle. And unfortunately, I didn't pull myself out, because you have to want to stop that cycle before anybody else, or before you can help people kind of help you. And for me, I didn't do that early enough. And I think that was inevitably like my problem. So I think going back to Maine, just enjoying the game, realizing that goaltending is not the be all and end all in a game. You are a cog in the machine, and you just need to do what you need to do. And then trust your teammates to do what they need to do. And then just have fun doing it and just see where you're at game 72, game whatever it is. And in doing so, it was a good season in Maine, just finding that love of the game again. So it was kind of like do it in tiers. It was kind of like Maine was find the love of the game again. And then last year was kind of like prove it to yourself that you can actually play at this level again. And not just like survive, but like play well. And, be what you want to be. You want to be an X factor in a game. And in doing so and making that jump to Prov last year, like a lot of my success, I think, has to do with my goalie partner, like Bus. Brandon is one of the most genuinely nice people you're going to meet in the sport of hockey. He was probably, if not my only, one of my only best friend goalie partner combinations I've ever had in my career. Because especially in the American League, we all want to get that call up. We all want to make the NHL. That's everybody's goal. But like Brandon, he is just a kind, extremely skilled goaltender. And I just have a bunch of respect for him because he never once kind of, talked down to me or like, we were cheering on each other, making saves in practice, once that stuff in improv kind of got settled out last year. And it was just, I want the best for him and he wants the best for me. And
old school, like stick taps when the other guy makes a big one at the other end, slamming.
No, not stick taps, like screaming. And then like, we'll like wave to each other in practice. And then the guys on the team, like they give us, because they always think the goalies are stirring up, because we all love to like chirp the equipment guys or chirp the guys in the room and play pranks. And just, Brandon and I think have such a good working relationship. And when you do have that, it just makes going to the rink all that much more fun. And I think I appreciated where my feet were, not looking too far ahead. And I think that was another downfall of mine when I was with Vancouver. I think I was just so young that I just wanted everything right away. And instead of just worrying about, okay, where am I at today, and just being the best at where I'm at today or trying to be, I wasn't doing that. And I mean, that goes with experience too. I mean, when you're a young kid, you don't know any better. You're constantly comparing yourself around the league to peers and other people getting certain opportunities. And then you start victimizing and you're starting a negative cycle again. So appreciating where I'm at is a big thing too.
So staying in, like we always talk about next shot mentality, you've learned to stay in the moment on multiple levels by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think success in a game, success on the ice, I think can only happen when, you have success off the ice in terms of, a healthy mindset. For me, it was working with a great sports psych here in Prov. With Dr. Bob. He has helped me a lot. Just kind of, goalies are kind of crazy. We have weird thoughts that enter our head, things that you think have a bearing on a game, but really have no bearing on how you're going to play. And just being able to air that out with him and, just being honest with myself where I'm at and just bite-sized chunks. You don't got to eat it all in one. And I think inevitably that makes me not think when I'm on the ice. And then it's just like for those 60 minutes, it seems really like a short period of time. Whereas maybe in the past, it felt like a monumental task to be dialed in for 60 minutes. But now it's just like, okay, all this stuff, you're having fun, doing whatever. And then, okay, time to play, dial it in and do your job and trust everybody else to do theirs.
I wanted to ask a little bit about in Maine, we talked about rebound or breakaway challenge, bringing that fun. But also, like one of the things we've always associated with you is compete. So are those a couple of great examples of ways like, hey, if the season's not going well for a young goalie, or maybe things just, like you said, it's not going the way you want. This is a good way to sort of get back to something that can work in your game, bring out the compete, but also still have fun at a practice environment. Like, hey, ask the guys if they want to play a game of rebound. I think rebound's a little bit of a lost art.
Yeah, I just love competing. I love battling. Most importantly, when I'm winning, I love to make sure the guys know that I am, and, just getting in their ear and just, having fun and creating those competitive juices. Because I guess for me, where I found I was kind of going in the wrong direction was I was trying to be too perfect. And I was thinking that, if I'm here and the puck's here, well, it's going to hit me here. Well, in a game, in practice, that's great. But in a game, you have sticks, pucks hit that can hit. They have shin pads, skates, off the forward that's in front of the net. Like, there's so many other variables that whatever you need to do, you need to find a way to make sure that puck doesn't go along the goal line. And yeah, it would be nice if it's all pretty all the time, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's pretty ugly. But at the end of the day, if you let in less goals than the other guy across from you, well, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win the game. And at the end of the day, that's what your job is entitled to. We need to win hockey games. So I guess going back to the rebound and the breakaway challenge, that compete part has always been a part of me. And I think I kind of lost it, kind of tapping into that desperation, if you want to call it. Not saying that you should always be desperate and swimming around the crease sometimes, but it's good that you can tap into that, but also have fun with the guys, because you need to have guys that want to play for you, guys that want to block a puck for you, guys that you just want to be a good guy in the room. Because at the end of the day, I mean, my favorite goalies growing up were Carey Price, Jonathan Quick. But, I mean, I can't regurgitate what their save percentage was or their goals against average was on a particular season. But, they were just good goalies who they have phenomenal teammates, and I think that at the end of the day, we all stopped playing hockey, but people always remember what kind of person you were. And I think that's something that I've been really trying to tap into the last 2 years.
What's changed? You talk about that balance, like the compete and how that's always been a part of your game. What about the other side? Without overanalyzing it, how has your game evolved technically, tactically? Because the game in front of us has changed since we talked to you last. Like what you're presented with as a goaltender in terms of the dynamic nature of offensive attacks, the East-West. How have you adapted over the last 4 years to some of those things?
I think working with the goalie coach here with Dunny, it's great because he's knowledgeable. He's really knowledgeable, but he also doesn't overload you with information. And he likes to keep things in like layman's terms, pretty simple. And for me, I found, especially something last year we really worked on, is make sure I'm not sitting in my post all the time in an RV. Puck's in the corner. The puck's going away from you. Like, why are you in an RV? You're just sitting in it. And just getting access to my feet more. I don't go down in an RV unless, I really have to. And that's something I continue to work at, especially being a smaller goalie. I can't play like, Jake Ottinger or, those big guys who are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". And, just realizing that, I can carve out kind of my own game, make sure I hit top of my crease, being more patient, little backflow on 2-on-1, just not a drift, just a little bit of flow back. And, all these other things that, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. And, maybe I wasn't doing this or I was doing too much of something. And I think just all finding balance. And then worrying about where the puck is. Not where the puck might be, might go, like, this guy's open, might go there. Yeah, it's good to be aware of that. But your job is to make sure the guy with the puck, if he shoots it, make sure it doesn't beat you, especially on 2-on-1s. So it sounds super simple when you boil it down, but I mean, like you said, stuff happens quick. There's a lot of other variables taking in information that you need to be. But for me, I just try to hit the top of my paint, see the release, tracking pucks. I mean, it's stuff they tell you right when you start out as goaltending. And maybe lost.
Well, I was just going to say, like, we can, and we're guilty, like InGoal, kind of like we consider ourselves tools in the toolbox, right? Our whole thing is we find all these different things and show goalies, but it can be a lot, right? Like, and I always praise guys that look for new things, but the reality is you have to find your foundation within that. If you're always chasing new things, it can be difficult to sort of have a consistency of what your base is. It sounds like you've found that.
Yeah, I think you got to figure out who you are as a goaltender and like how you kind of want to play and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And just trust in it. Yes, you can add tools to your toolbox. If there's an easier way to do something, I am all game to learn how to do that because, hockey is pretty hard, no matter what people think. So for me, like, even like I don't watch hockey. The COVID season kind of ruined it for me. I felt like I just watched way too much hockey. And so, but when we're at the rink in the mornings and having breakfast, there's always NHL Network on. And, I watch like goalies like Dustin Wolf, who broke in Calgary. He's having a phenomenal year. Like, I remember like when I was playing him against Abbotsford, I was like, wow, this kid can move. He's like, and he's smart in the way he moves. But then you have like such a discrepancy in like, okay, now you have Vladar, who's like taller, right? He's a bigger guy, same team, same whatever, but like they play like so differently, but it both gets the job done. And I mean, I go down the list and all the great NHL goalies that are out there who I have tons of respect for. But like, there's so many great goalies out there that, you know, you're always learning when you're on the ice. And I feel like in just like looking at little intricate things, you know, maybe you add something like this or that, but you don't got to overhaul your whole game into this picture perfect kind of carbon copy cut of what you think goaltending is.
You said you don't watch much hockey anymore, but when you do you like, do you gravitate a little bit towards a guy like Wolf just based on, and we know Dustin well, and he has faced that question, as I know you have for all the years, about size.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely, I'm team little guy. You know, like I'm not team big guy. I mean, I always said there's a difference between, you know, making a save and just getting in the way. I mean, they both do the same thing, but I think, you know, there's a deliberate action in one and an element of just like, you know, genetics that are just like, okay, you take up space, congrats. But it's funny, you know, Dustin's obviously younger than I am, and I'm still like, I'm grinding and just hopefully, you know, continue to get better in my career. And, but like, yeah, I'm super happy when I see guys like that who have a tremendous work ethic and guys who I have a lot of respect for and just continue to have success, you know. And I think even like my goalie partner here with Bus, like Bus plays the game a little bit differently than I do. Heck, he's a southpaw.
I was just gonna say, he catches with the wrong hand. That's a start.
Yeah, exactly. And we always laugh about how, you know, I find goaltenders are very like observant, like whether like a guy's a righty or a lefty. Like Bus and I can probably go up and down their team, tell you what hand, how they tape their stick, where the puck goes off on their stick, da 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 da. Well, then the guys are like, hey, are you playing tonight or is Bus? Or they go to Bus, is Mikey playing or are you playing? And they're like, literally, all you need to do is just go down to the bottom of the sheet and then it just says who's playing. And it's like, well, like, what the hell? Bus catches a completely different way. And they're like, oh my God, I just scored on you. I'm like, no, that was Bus. And they'll go to, oh, I scored on Mike. And they're like, no, that was me. Or like, you know, all these other things. And it's just like, it's so funny how it's just so different.
We're a more cerebral breed, the goaltenders, for sure.
We got too much time on our hands in the crease, you know?
Yeah, that could be it. A lot of time to think. It sounds like you've found a good way to direct those thoughts in recent years. What are some of who are some of the influences? You mentioned Brandon. You mentioned Mike Dunham. Who are any other things that you've, you know, chased down over the summers or guys you've worked with in terms of just continuing to grind away at your foundation and finding new tools?
Yeah, I have the same goalie coach as I did when I was in Vancouver. Like, still Perry Wilson. I've been skating with Andrew Korchis, and you know, for me, those are my guys. Like, I always they've been with me, especially like Perry and Brian Spearing, and you know, they've been with me since I was literally like a pudgy little 8-year-old. And you know, 100%, I'm open to learning new concepts and, you know, these new things. But for me, I'm also to the point where like I'm really loyal. And I think like if I can learn something from somebody, like I want who I'm working with to learn from them as well. And just see like if it's applicable and not.
Because they know your game.
Yeah, exactly. They know my game. They know what makes me tick. And we break down, you know, kind of like, hey, what were kind of like the main reasons you got scored on in the past season? How can we develop drills or concepts to like help mitigate that for the following season? And just kind of like, you know, do an honest look back of each season and be like, hey, this is an area where you can be better, and let's just attack it.
I love that. Rather than just going into a summer and just doing the work because you do the work, having a specific focus on at least some elements. Is there an example from past years that you can give us where you identified one thing and then set up drills to make sure that, again, as part of everything else, attacking that was something you improved on?
Oh, that's tough.
Put you on the spot.
No, I mean, it's good. Like, you gotta get better. I think for me, if you go way back, I mean, my post play was atrocious. I really didn't know what an RV was until I met Clarkie. And so like Clarkie really taught me what an RVH is. You know, coming out of junior was kind of slop. He'd probably say I was ugly. And, you know, how sloppy I was on my posts and everything like that, which I was, you know, it's honest. And it got better. You know, that was like a focus meeting, you know. I found in when I was in Maine, I found that if a puck goes low to high, or like let's say crosses the goal line, you're coming up above the tops of the goal line, and a shooter's coming downhill, my feet aren't set. I feel like I'm just like trying to get out to that angle and make sure I take away the angle so much that I'm just drifting. When I'm dropping a butterfly, I'm just going forward and my feet aren't set. So then even if I do make the save, I'm just, out of the way. So just working on just making sure that you pop up, okay, just grabbing that edge, stopping, because, angle always beats depth all the time. And if my feet were set, those are like some things that come to mind. I mean,
it's funny that's a basic foundation, right? Like set feet is so important. And yet, I don't know if it's been for you. You talked about a little bit of glide drift. I can't remember the word you used, but I know like with the big club with Bob, there's that, they call it recoil, right? A little bit of like set, but then a purposeful release because of all the east-west and pucks off skates and sticks and legs and butts, as you said.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that was, when goalie Bob talked to me about the concept, I mean, it made sense. It's one of those things where I thought I was doing it, but then you look at it, you're like, you're not doing it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm not doing this. Well, let's do this because this makes sense. And it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it might be simple to people. You're like, yeah, of course. Like that makes complete sense. Well, I mean, the game is a lot quicker than what you guys see it when you're up top or when you're sitting in the stands, and it looks so predictable. You're
looks easy from the press box, buddy. Let me tell you.
Exactly. And I'm sucking air on the ice and praying to God when there's a whistle, waving the white towel. So, but yeah, no, I think all those things you always want to try to get better because everybody else is. So, and being a good person along the way, I mean, that should be hand in hand. No matter where you are in your career, like for me, I'm still obviously trying to make it, and I'm not giving up by any means. I'm still hungry to move forward in my career, and I dream about winning the Stanley Cup every day. But in doing so, I'm not doing that tomorrow. So let's just be a good teammate. Let's get our work in, and let's just enjoy the process. And I think that's something that I've been getting better at.
Letting go of expectations that came with how you came into the league, some of the outside noise about expectations for you and around you. Is that a big part of this as well? Like, it sounds like you're just in the moment in a lot of different capacities. I know I've said that once already, but keep coming back to that. I feel like I wonder how hard expectations set the plate for you as a pro.
Yeah, I think when you first kind of are drafted new to a league, first thing is, people from the outside are like, okay, how good is this guy? Or how good can he be? Or what's his comparison? What's his floor? What's his ceiling? What's his this? What's his that? Social security number, what is it? Like, it's just like everything that you want to know about this guy. And I mean, at the time I was, 20 years old. So then I was like, oh my God, like I have all this pressure, but like, I can do it, I can do it. And, when you start to stumble a little bit, and you don't really understand how pro hockey works and how deep each team is in goaltending and how certain guys get breaks and certain guys, got to wait a little bit longer. I didn't want to hear any about it. I didn't want to hear it. I was like, no, this is my path and this is what I'm doing. And then when that doesn't happen right away, you start feeling like a failure, and for me, that's kind of like how I felt. You're like, oh my God, so-and-so's getting this opportunity. He's getting this opportunity. He signed this contract. Well, what the heck am I doing? But I think honestly, a lot of it has been put into perspective when I was able to step outside the rink, got to meet a great person in Grace, she's my girlfriend. She's great. I bounce a lot of things off of her. I think I've become a better person. I'm a pretty faithful guy, like spiritually, and I believe in God, and I think that I'm not going to go preach the word to you right now, but at the same time, I'm like, it kind of gives me a sort of peace. It kind of boils down just like you don't got to worry all the time, you don't got to stress all the time. Just finding life lessons in that. I mean, I got a dog. Roots is fantastic. We wanted to keep it a Canadian theme, so we named him Roots. So I think the next one's got to be a girl, name her Aritzia or something. I don't know for grades, but we'll figure that out. But I think all those other great distractions that, you can get or that I could get for myself to kind of, okay, life is not just hockey and it's a little bit more than that, a lot more than that. I think it was allowed me to find a little bit more balance when I play.
I love it. I did want to ask you one more. You're having a great season. Everything seems to keep building, but you don't know how good a season. No statistics. You don't look at it until the end of the year. So I'll save that for the intro that you won't hear. I'll introduce you before we. But can you explain why? Explain for goalies, because we talk about staying in the moment. We talk about not looking up at the shot clock or counting down the minutes. All the different ways that you use to write things in your blocker to help you stay in the moment.
Yeah.
How does this fit in? Not knowing your stats during the season.
I mean, I still do all those things you say, but I think the not looking at stats part is probably one of my favorite things to do, because I mean, it goes back to you're constantly being compared. Everything you're doing, you're being compared to not only what you're doing within your team, what you're doing organizationally, you're being compared to when so-and-so was your age, what did his numbers look like? Then you're going league, then you're going world, and everything that's in between. There's a stat for everything. There's that for goals saved, expected, above average. So-and-so in slot chances against. What's your save percentage in slot chances against? And
I make my living with these numbers, buddy. I know they exist.
I'm not bashing it, but at the same time too, it's okay, if you let in a goal within the first 5 minutes of the game, and you're looking at the shot clock and you're like, I need to make 25 more saves to make sure I have a 970 when this game's done. It is bananas, absolutely bananas. And if you don't, oh my God, the walls are closing in and it's caving. Oh, by the way, that puck that you let in had nothing to do with you, but it's in the net and it's on your stat line. So I guess for me, not looking at these stats and not looking at what it is, it helps me because I view the season as like a book. There's so many different chapters. There's so many games. There's so much turnover. There's so many guys, especially in the American League. You have a new teammate a week, at least one. And then, when the season ends, you're like, so-and-so was my teammate here, then not here, and this and that. So for me, what I like to do is I don't like to pay attention to that stuff. You got a pretty good idea of what you're doing, but to do a comparison against, other goalies in the league, to do everything like that, I want to leave that up to my agent and you guys and whoever wants to do that. I'm going to stick with just playing, because whenever I can play with a clean mind, you're not worried about I got to only let in one goal here, or I need a shutout in this game to balance this out. And, all these things. Goaltenders, we know where we're at, a good idea of kind of where we're at, but we're never really satisfied. We want to stop everything. And so for me, not looking at stats eliminates one part of what could be a very cloudy part in your brain, and where you can just kind of not focus on what you have to do on a day-to-day basis, because you feel like those numbers define you as a goaltender. Whereas you look like a guy like UC Saros, he's a fantastic goaltender. He's unbelievable. But yeah, he's having they're having a tough year or whatever. But at the end of the day, though, UC Saros is a fantastic goaltender. Do these numbers define him? No, I don't think so. I just think there's always a little bit more than to the numbers, but I don't like any numbers. I like number one puck, and that's the only thing I got to worry about, and just enjoy my teammates and playing the game that we all love. Because it goes by quick. Like you said, it was 4 years since I've been on the podcast, 6 years since I've been played my first pro game. It's bananas how quickly it goes by. So
I love that approach. There are a lot of guys. I had this conversation 20 games into the season with a bunch of NHL guys, and they were having a tough time not looking at their numbers and trying to figure out when they should start. When is it okay? When's the sample size big enough? Literally guys that are playing in the league. And so to take that approach, when you're playing well.
I think though too, like it's hard to not see it.
I was going to ask, how tough is it?
Well, like the guys that I play with, like they know. Like I tell them like right away. I'm like, they know when I don't like to look at my stats. They know I don't talk when it's past 4:30, like on a 7:00 game. Like they know these things, and because it is difficult. I mean, I don't have social media, which helps, but I mean, I have people on contacts on my phone that'll just like, oh, you're having a great year, da 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 da, and I'll have like, Grace, what do they say? And it's okay, is it good? Okay, good, and I'll reply. But and just kind of like find solutions kind of like that. Whereas, and then in the room before every game, there's stat sheets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like one of these just walking by and, just don't look. So yeah, it's difficult, but I make a conscious effort not to worry about it because, I don't want a clouded brain. I just want to be able to play, hopefully make the NHL one day and then just stay there, win Stanley Cups like we all want to do. But I mean, just being a good person in the process is kind of my main goal.
So you wait if the season is a book and with multiple chapters, you wait till it ends till you close it and look.
Yeah. End of the season, game 72. I'll take a look.
Even with playoffs still coming.
Yeah. I'll look at it just because, like, for me, it's like a book. Close it. Playoffs, new book. I mean, the American League playoffs are a little bit different than the NHL playoffs in terms of like the playing around, everything. So I just try to, enjoy it. We have 4 games left, keep being a good teammate. That's my focus. And, when game 72 comes, I'll just, call my folks and I like to reminisce about funny times or crazy road trips that we had to take because the schedule was crazy. And, all these little things that you kind of want to buzz through when you get to the season. When you look back on it, it's almost like those campfire stories. You're like, hey, remember when we did this? That was bananas. That didn't make any sense. Or that was fun, or, all these other things. So it's kind of a nice way to kind of put an end to it, but then also turn the page and, look forward to playoffs. And then when playoffs are done, you look at the season as a whole. But,
well, that would be a pretty good bookend for our interview, but because it's me, I do have a couple more.
Keep going. I have nothing but time.
Is there still a message in the blocker, and what is it now?
It's one puck at a time still.
Still? Okay.
I still have a smiley face on the blockers, or on my glove and blocker, I should say. But yeah, still one puck at a time. Sometimes it works better than others, but I just keep but then I try to like say a quote or something, or like not a quote, just maybe like could be 2 words. You ever watch Ted Lasso?
Oh yeah. Yep. Believe.
Okay. Yeah, but my favorite one about Ted Lasso is season 1. Sam Obasanya is really struggling, and Ted goes up to him. He goes, "You know what the happiest animal in the world is?" He goes, "A goldfish." And he goes, "You don't know why? Because it has a 12-second memory." So I remember I let in a goal from behind the goal line. So I'm on a freaking dump in this year, so bad. And like literally, I was like shouting to myself. I'm like, "Be a goldfish, be a goldfish." I had just watched that episode, and it was just like, you got to be a goldfish. That's all you can do. You can't do anything about it. You're like, you did this to yourself. Well, you got to pull yourself out of it. So there are a couple of times this season I was saying certain things to me, but it's just, one puck at a time is one that gets written, I guess.
Nice. Pre-game routine. You mentioned you lost it in Vancouver after not playing for a year. There's a good lesson there, I think. Whether yours is the same as anyone else's isn't what matters, but the importance of having one.
I think so. I think it's extremely important. I think more so for goaltenders. I've tweaked it over the last couple of years, but I kept to the same kind of meat and potatoes. If just change the spices sometimes, But
without giving it away, is there any specific things that key elements for you that maybe a young kid might be like, hey, that seems like a really good way to get in the right mind frame? Again, it's different for everyone, knowing that.
Yeah. I think, part of it for me is know what you're going to eat for pregame. In the American League, you don't get pregame provided for you. So home games, you're cooking. And I like to have a meal prep plan. I prep all my, cut up my vegetables or whatever I need to do. So when I come back from practice, I can just cook them, morning skate or whatever I got to do. So that way it just minimizes my cleanup. I know it might sound crazy, but that helps me. Visualization before the game is massive for me. Nothing too crazy, like literally 1 or 2 minutes, kind of picturing safe selections. And then I think.
So let me rewind. I'll pause on the visualization real quick because I want to ask you about that, because a lot of people hear visualization and it's different. So is it meditative? Like, are you just sitting and picturing yourself through your mind's eye? Are you watching yourself from, like, what are you seeing when you visualize, and how do you set yourself up for it physically even?
So I always do it after my hand-eye. Okay. So I usually like tape my stick, stretch, hand-eye, visualize, then we have meetings.
Hand-eye's juggling balls off walls?
Yeah, I used to just do one. There's one puck. I mean, I know goalies who can juggle and all this stuff, but I mean, I like to keep it relatively simple.
Just one ball.
One ball. And when I do visualization, it's not like, I mean, going through Hockey Canada stuff, and you have all these meetings, they could tell you about the perks of doing like in-person visualization, making sure you can picture yourself actually doing the motion and not looking at yourself doing the motion when you visualize.
So through your mind's eye.
I'm trying to do it, exactly. So I try to just picture, I can kind of like see the color of the jersey that we're playing against, like who we're playing, and then just kind of pick 1 or 2 guys on the team, like a righty and a lefty that I would know. And, just kind of mimicking a save selection, whether that be a stick save to glove side, stick save blocker, to a glove, to a blocker, to a chest, to 5-hole, to high tip, to breakaway, like playing it like on rims, puck handles. So stuff like that, I'll try to hit on those visualizations before meetings and stuff. And then it's like, okay, now we start getting the body ready. But a lot of it has to do with, when we talk about routine, is, well, what's your routine when you actually are out on the ice? Like, what do you do when the play is not happening? What do you do when there's a TV timeout? Like all these other things that I'm like completely forget what I do. And I was trying to reteach myself. So what I've been doing is I go in my notes and I literally type in pregame routine, in-game routine. And then whenever I don't play for a little bit or a week or whatever, or I mean, once the summer hits, you don't play for a few months. That way you have something to look back on. You read it. You kind of be like, oh yeah, I do this. And then until it starts happening to be second nature again. That way you're not having to reteach yourself from the get-go after you don't play from whatever June or May till all the way to September, October.
Or in your case with your time with the Canucks in the pandemic, 400 days.
Yeah, exactly. I hope nobody does that, but yes.
So notes, notebook, do you ever do you look back and be like, hey, when I was playing really well, I was doing this in between periods, or I was doing that in a TV timeout? Like, do you connect those dots on those trends, or is it just?
I think old me would have, for sure. Old me would kind of be grasping at, okay, I drank a blue Gatorade in this game and I had success. Because of this blue Gatorade, I had success. And that would definitely be the old me mindset. But I think after working with Dr. Bob, and all these, things that I'm able to get off my chest and not have them stew, I find when I say things out loud, it takes away like the power they can have on me. Because you hear how ridiculous that sounds.
The blue Gatorade.
Because you're like, okay, I did, I had my coffee cup was half full when I had to take my stick. Well, maybe I need a full cup of coffee before this game because you had a 3 and 3. There's all these other variables that go into it. Whereas maybe I'm like, yeah.
Big difference between that and your pregame routine. It's the difference between the superstitious things that you might do and the routine elements that you might do too. Like you said, concentrating for 60 minutes is hard. Yeah. We've talked with guys where it's not about concentrating for 60 minutes. It's about recognizing when it drifts. Sometimes it's okay to let it drift, but knowing how and when to bring it back.
Yeah, like going along that same thought process is like, when you're on your island, the blue paint for 60 minutes, you're going to have some negative thoughts come in your brain. Because I'm a guy, because your brain, after talking with Dr. Bob, I'm going to say it in a really way worse way than he explains it to me. But basically, it's like your brain tries to attach similar things that have occurred for you to make sense of the situation that you're in currently. So, like, for instance, if I let in we played this team, I let in 2 goals in the game, but they scored within the first 5 minutes of the game. Now, the second game, we played the same team. 4 months later, they score in the exact same way within the first 5 minutes of the game. Well, now it's like, okay, well, I'm only going to let in 2 goals that game because, they didn't score the first 5 minutes of the game. Like, to me, that's where my brain goes. Or you better not let this person score because they have the momentum. They're negative thoughts that enter kind of your head. But for me, it's not like people always say, like, don't let negative thoughts enter your head. Like, shut them out, push them away. And I feel like when people tell you to do that, it's like, don't push the red button. Don't push it. All you want to do is push the red button. Whereas Dr. Bob and I are working on to be like, okay, acknowledge that, okay, it's a thought that you have. Acknowledge that, like, okay, I'm thinking this right now. This has no bearing on the game. And it allows you to kind of like process it. It's almost like looking at it in the face, whereas pretending that it's not there. That is what's been really helpful, I think, for me in those like unique instances.
Walking up to the tee box and there's the lake on the left, don't hit it in the water, right? If that's what you're thinking about, that's where it's going.
Well, unfortunately, that is not yet translated to my golf game, So this mental awareness has not, and mindfulness has not into my golf game. I'm a very bad / passionate golfer, but I keep going back. It's sick. I don't know why.
Listen, just sort it out on the ice as a goaltender first. There'll be lots of time for golf later, my friend.
Exactly. That's my goal.
Mikey, I've really enjoyed this, man. It's been great to catch up. All the best, continued success. We'll just leave it at that. And like I said, it's been too long. I'll make sure it's not this long next time. But it's been a real pleasure to watch you in your next opportunity continue to grow and continue to have success, man. It's been great.
Thanks, Kev. I really appreciate it.
You can't give up on goalies. You can't. 25, 26, 27. It can
young
still
man,
happen
25
for goaltenders.
Don't forget, guys come over from Europe at that age and are given their first opportunity, and we write off too many North American goalies too young.
He's done a nice, he got into all of it, obviously, didn't pan out here in Vancouver. To go through that journey, and it was a very difficult one at the beginning. I don't think people understand sometimes how you can just be sort of left to hang in pro hockey as you wait for your next opportunity. He ends up in the ECHL. You heard the story about going to the Spangler and not even getting his gear and basically being a cheerleader because his gear didn't show up. He loses his grandma. He's a very big family guy. Goes through all of that, rediscovers a bit of love for the game in the ECHL, has a heck of a season in the ECHL, and has just steadily progressed and continued to get better and have better results in the next couple of years in the American Hockey League. He was an all-star this year. His numbers are off the charts good. I'll let everybody else look them up in case Mikey ever decides to listen to this podcast. Hopefully he won't until after we're done. We didn't use the number, but it's way up there. So I just love that he's open and willing to share some of the lessons he's learned along the way, very specifically because having been through it himself, he wants to be one of those guys that gives back in the hopes that some other young kid listening to this, will be better for it or will be able to tap into his experiences with it to help them if they run into something similar down the road themselves.
Difficult week in the goaltending world. Greg Millen passing away. Mark Laforest leaving us. A couple of guys with very different careers. Millsy played a long time and was like a star for a couple of franchises. Thinking about St. Louis and Hartford. Southpaw, small guy. Played for Chicago too. That scene of him on the bench during the Keenan years, he was taken out of the game and he's running up and down the bench, grabbing guys and trying to motivate them. Team guy. Wore the Aeroflex pads. You think about those. He also had the Wayne Gretzky Yofa with the cage on it. Like, how would you ever wear that thing? But then broadcaster for Ever Hockey Night in Canada, and I worked with him at Sportsnet and saw him just recently. And you never think about that's going to be the last time, but we had a conversation and talking about how the producer actually told me how great Millen was, because it's a young producer, how great he's been, supportive he's been with the new play-by-play guy, John Abbott, in Calgary. So Peterborough guy, family guy, awesome dude. He used to record games and watch them in the van. He had a driver that would drive him from Peterborough to Ottawa, do the game, and then drive him home. And he would max out his prep time on the drive by having somebody drive the vehicle, and he would watch the games on VHS and then through DVD, burning those. So just he was a small guy, though. He wasn't very big at all. And every time you saw him, you thought, how did he ever play in the National Hockey League? And Mark Laforest, not as well known as Greg, not a broadcaster, but had a minor league career with little dabs of professional time. Toronto Maple Leafs, didn't play a lot of games with Toronto, but ended up being part of their alumni association, played a ton of games with the alumni association. Philadelphia Flyers played there, but mostly in the minors. And Trees, he actually lived in his van for a while. Like, he was just a unique guy. He was part of a couple of trips to Afghanistan with the NHL alumni that I was on. Oh. And he would play ball hockey with his gear over there, and he'd have a dart going through his mask, smoking during the ball hockey game. Just a world-class character. But he always told me when he was partners with Hexy in Philly, Hexy would, in between periods, put his gloves down and have everything situated. And Trees, Mark Laforest, one of the great nicknames, Trees would come by and either pretend to stumble and kick the gloves on purpose and watch Hexy go crazy, or he'd move them around and then get out of the room. Just a true character, and two great people, but two fun goaltenders. The guys just loved the position too.
What more can we say? Our sympathies to their friends and family. It's sad to lose them from the goalie union.
And it's just thinking about Millen and those St. Louis Blues sweaters, and they were like skin tight, and still managed to, his pads, the Aeroflex pads, like that's what the pads are now. Like basically that kind of thing, way ahead of his time. Him and Tom Barrasso, and I don't know, Southpaws all wore them, but and then Trees was just, there's nobody more unique and more true to himself than Mark Laforest. So guys, stick tap to you up there, and have a good game in that next chapter of our journey in goaltending. On behalf of everybody here at InGoal Radio, the podcast, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.